So I want you to imagine walking into your favorite restaurant, right? And you decide to bring a really special bottle of wine from your own cellar.
Yeah, a nice vintage.
Exactly. You sit down, the waiter comes over, and they just hit you with this massive corkage fee just for the privilege of opening your own bottle.
It's the worst.
It really is. But here's the thing. That is exactly how Shopify treats merchants who choose not to use their native payment system.
Yep.
So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are completely deconstructing Shopify payments. We are working through the latest 2026 data on the platform's fees, the setup architecture, and honestly, the hidden costs.
Because there are plenty of them.
There are. So
Yeah.
for anyone running an e-commerce business, or even if you're just fiercely curious about the invisible mechanics of how money actually moves online, we're breaking down whether this platform is, the ultimate utility it claims to be, or if it's just a beautifully designed trap.
And what is genuinely fascinating about that native payment system for Shopify payments
Yeah.
is that Shopify didn't even build it from scratch. Like, when you process a transaction through Shopify payments, you are actually just running on Stripe's infrastructure.
It's all strapped under the hood.
Completely. It
Yeah.
is Stripe's processing rails. It's their encryption standards, their global routing networks. It's just heavily, heavily white labeled. Shopify essentially dressed Stripe up in their own custom interface, to keep the entire merchant experience seamless and strictly in-house.
Okay, but wait. If Shopify Payments is literally just Stripe, why wouldn't a merchant just plug their store directly into their own independent Stripe account? I
Right.
mean, that way they could avoid Shopify's specific risk thresholds and maintain total control over their own processing, right?
You would think so, but doing exactly that is what triggers the corkage fee.
Ah,
Yeah. To understand why merchants universally adopt Shopify payments,
Hmm.
you really have to look at the financial penalty for trying to maintain that independence.
this.
Exactly, the stick. If you connect an external payment gateway, so whether that's an independent Stripe account, authorized.net, Braintree, whatever, Shopify applies an additional third-party transaction fee to every single sale.
Wow.
And depending on your subscription plan, that penalty ranges from 0.5% all the way up to 2%.
And I mean, in the context of e-commerce where your gross margins are constantly under pressure from ad costs, fulfillment, shipping,
Everything.
yeah, everything. Voluntarily surrendering an extra 2% of top-line revenue just to use your preferred gateway is basically financial self-sabotage.
It really is.
Because that penalty fee, that sits right on top of whatever processing rate your external gateway is already charging you.
Yep, it's a double whammy. But, by simply adopting their white label system, Shopify eliminates that 2% penalty entirely.
So they create a scenario where independence just becomes mathematically irrational.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
But the strategy isn't purely punitive, right?
Right.
They pair that heavy stick with an incredibly compelling set of carrots.
Right, the perks.
Huge perks. By opting in, the merchant instantly inherits PCI DSS Level 1 compliance.
Which is huge.
It's massive. There are no sprawling security audits, no massive compliance questionnaires to fill out, because the system just automatically encrypts and tokenizes the credit card data before it ever even touches the merchant servers.
So you never hold the toxic data.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you also get streamlined cash flow. Automated payouts hit a U.S. bank account in 2 business days. It natively processes all major credit cards, digital wallets, Apple Pay, Google Pay, right out of the box.
I mean, the compliance alone saves a business hundreds of hours of engineering overhead. But, reading through the sources, the real secret weapon here, like the ultimate mechanism of ecosystem lock-in, is Shop Pay.
Oh, absolutely.
The data shows that integrating Shop Pay can boost a store's checkout conversions by up to 50%.
Yeah, 50%.
That is staggering.
Yeah.
A 50% jump in conversions simply because a buyer doesn't have to manually type in their shipping address and card details.
It fundamentally changes the economics of customer acquisition. And the reason Shop Pay is so effective comes down to cross-network tokenization.
Okay, break that down for us.
So when a consumer buys something from literally any Shopify store on the internet, and they opt to save their information, Shop Pay vaults those credentials.
Right.
So the next time that consumer lands on a completely unrelated Shopify store,
Like a totally different brand.
totally different brand, the system recognizes their device or their email. And instead of multi-page checkout form, they just get a purple button and a one-tap purchase.
That is so slick.
It's brilliant. By offering the highest converting checkout tool on the internet for free, but severely penalizing external tools, Shopify effectively forces the merchant's hand. I mean, prioritizing a massive conversion boost is always going to win out over gateway loyalty.
Right, you are happily locked in because the conversion rates absolutely justify the constraints. So, assuming you take the deal, what does this toll booth actually cost? Looking at the 2026 fee structure, it's essentially a sliding scale, right? Like,
Right.
the more you pay in monthly rent for your platform subscription, the cheaper your per transaction toll becomes.
Yeah, the pricing architecture is very deliberately designed to reflect a merchant's scale.
Right.
The higher your volume, the more negotiating leverage you theoretically have, which Shopify just standardizes into their tiers.
Right. So for context for you listening, if you are on the basic plan at $39 a month, the online card transaction fee is 2.9% plus 30 cents.
Yep.
Then the Grow plan pushes your subscription up to $105 a month, but it drops the rate to 2.7%.
Exactly.
The Advanced plan at $399 drops it to 2.5%. And then the Enterprise tier, which is plus, at a steep $2,300 a month, brings the transaction cost down to 2.15%.
And just a quick note, for merchants utilizing point-of-sale hardware, the in-person rates are slightly lower across all those tiers.
Okay, but this brings up a really practical question. Are these micro percentages really worth upgrading a monthly subscription fee? Like, what does this all actually mean for a growing business?
It's a critical operational hurdle, especially for mid-sized merchants, because a lot of businesses stall out on lower tiers since they view software subscriptions as just static expenses.
Like rent.
Right, like rent.
Right.
They look at upgrading from a $39 plan to a $105 plan as just bleeding an extra $66 a month.
Which hurts when you're bootstrapping.
Sure, but that analysis completely ignores the dynamic nature of transaction volume.
Okay, so if you are staring at your dashboard right now, trying to figure out if shaving 0.2% off a transaction fee is actually worth a higher monthly bill, you have to run the break-even math.
You have to.
And the gap between the basic and the Grow plan is $66. The savings on the transaction fee is 0.2%. So you divide 66 by 0.002, you hit the exact break-even volume.
Which is $33,000 in monthly revenue.
33 grand.
Right. At exactly $33,000 processed, the 0.2% savings entirely covers the cost of that $66 upgrade.
Wow, okay.
So everything processed beyond that point is pure margin retrieval.
I love that phrase, margin retrieval.
Yeah. I mean, if that store scales to $50,000 a month in revenue, that 0.2% savings not only pays for the premium software tier, but it actually nets the business an additional $34 a month in pure profit.
That is fascinating.
It just demonstrates why founders really cannot treat infrastructure costs passively. Scaling effectively means continuously recalculating that transaction volume threshold and shifting platform tiers the absolute moment the math flips in your favor.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for domestic volume. But reading the source material, the math gets incredibly volatile the second an order crosses a border.
Oh, yeah. It gets messy.
There are some severe hitting traps here regarding international surcharges that can just immediately wreck those carefully calculated unit economics we just talked about.
Yeah, the assumption that an online sale functions identically regardless of where the buyer is physically located, that is a very dangerous blind spot.
Right.
Because the underlying payment networks, Visa, MasterCard, the issuing banks, they assess entirely different risk profiles and interchange fees when money moves across borders.
Yeah.
And Shopify just passes those costs directly to the merchant.
And they stack up so quickly. Like if a customer pays with an international credit card, Shopify applies a mandatory 1% surcharge.
Yep.
And if that transaction also requires currency conversion, meaning, say, the buyer purchases in euros but your store pays out in US dollars, the system tacks on an additional 1% fee.
Which radically alters the profitability of a single order.
Drastically. Let's play this out. Take a US-based store on the basic plan, right? Baseline rate of 2.9% plus 30 cents.
Okay.
An international customer buys a $100 item. You add the 1% international card fee plus the 1% currency conversion fee.
Right.
Suddenly, the processing cost for that specific checkout leaps to 4.9% plus 30 cents.
Ouch.
Yeah. You are paying $5.20 in fees on a $100 order. That is nearly double the domestic processing cost. If your margins on that item are already tight, the transaction fees just swallowed your net profit.
And this is exactly where platform tooling becomes necessary for survival.
What do you mean?
Well, the mitigation strategy here relies on Shopify Markets. It's a tool that allows a merchant to dynamically display pricing in the buyer's local currency.
Okay.
But more importantly, it allows the merchant to apply padded exchange rates.
Ah, clever.
Yeah. By manipulating the conversion rate presented to the buyer, the merchant can effectively bake those 2% cross-border surcharges into the retail price.
Forcing the consumer to absorb the cost.
Exactly, rather than taking the hit on the back end. But, and this is key, it requires deliberate configuration. The platform does not protect your margins by default. You have to set that up.
Right. But at least that's a manageable mathematical problem. Like you can adjust prices to fix it.
Yeah, sure.
The much more terrifying trap in this 2026 data is the payout hold.
Oh, the 120-day hold.
Yes.
Wow.
According to the guidelines, Shopify reserves the right to freeze a merchant's funds for up to 120 days.
4 months.
4 months. And they can trigger this for unusual account activity, policy violations, or literally even just sudden spikes in sales volume.
Which sounds crazy, right?
It is crazy. Here's where it gets really interesting and a bit terrifying. A 120-day hold is like your bank freezing your business checking account just because a weekend marketing campaign performed too well.
Yeah.
For an independent business relying on consistent cash flow to replenish inventory or fund active ad campaigns, a 4-month capital freeze is a death sentence.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights the structural difference between a dedicated merchant account and an aggregated payment facilitator.
Unpack that a bit.
Sure. When a business secures a traditional merchant account through a bank, they undergo rigorous individual underwriting. The bank assesses their specific financial health, their credit history, everything.
Right.
Shopify Payments doesn't do that. They act as a massive umbrella, instantly underwriting millions of merchants simultaneously. They are acting as the ultimate guarantor of that collective volume.
So they are essentially absorbing the entire network's liability.
Precisely. Think about it. If a storefront suddenly processes 10,000 orders in a single weekend, collects the payouts, and then just vanishes without fulfilling a single shipment.
Total scam.
Right. The buyers will initiate chargebacks through their credit card issuers. But since the merchant is gone, Shopify is legally on the hook to refund those millions of dollars.
Wow, okay.
So, to protect themselves from that massive exposure, they rely on automated machine learning models. When an algorithm detects a massive, uncharacteristic spike in transaction volume, it just assumes the worst-case scenario.
It panics.
It panics. It freezes the capital to ensure the merchant actually ships the physical goods and that valid tracking numbers are generated. It's a highly aggressive defense mechanism.
Which is exactly why relying on daily Shopify payouts as your sole operating capital is a massive liability.
Totally.
Like, you must maintain independent cash reserves to survive an automated algorithmic panic.
You have to.
And speaking of risk management, that massive risk profile that forces Shopify to freeze accounts is the exact same reason they act as a ruthless enforcer when it comes to chargebacks.
Oh, the bouncer at the door.
Exactly. When a customer disputes a charge with their issuing bank, Shopify hits the merchant with a flat $15 chargeback fee.
Yep.
And that $15 is instantly deducted from the account balance, and it is entirely non-refundable, even if the merchant provides tracking data, fights the dispute, and wins.
Right. And that flat fee isn't actually Shopify attempting to profit from the dispute.
It's not.
No, it's an automated network penalty passed down from the credit card companies to cover the administrative overhead of processing the adjudication.
Ah, got it.
In the payment processing industry, you pay for the accusation, regardless of the final verdict.
Man, that's brutal, and the penalties escalate rapidly. The source data says if a storefront's overall chargeback rate creeps above just 1% of total transaction volume, Shopify's automated systems might suspend the account entirely.
1% is a very tight margin of error.
It is, and they heavily police what product categories are allowed through the gateway. Now, the prohibited list is pretty standard: firearms, adult content, multi-level marketing, crypto.
Right, the usual suspects.
But the high-risk category is incredibly broad. We're talking nutritional supplements, drop shipping models with extended delivery windows, and high-ticket luxury goods. They all sit in this precarious gray area.
Yeah, and it functions very much like a centralized credit score.
Yeah.
You don't get the benefit of a nuanced human review here.
No.
Selling an expensive watch or a viral dietary supplement quietly marks your profile within their closed risk algorithm. And if that algorithm decides Your volume or your product category presents too much liability, and they suspend your Shopify payments
Like,
access
should they can do it at any time.
at any time.
Yeah.
The failure mode is catastrophic. You don't just lose a software tool, you lose your data portability.
Wait, okay. Explain what losing data portability actually means in this context, because that sounds important.
It's crucial. If you operate an independent Stripe or Braintree account, and you decide to migrate to a new e-commerce platform, your payment history, and most importantly, your customers' vaulted credit card tokens belong to you.
Right, you can take them with you.
Exactly.
Eh.
You can export that PCI-compliant data to a new processor and just keep charging your recurring subscriptions without missing a beat. On Shopify payments, that tokenized data is intrinsically tied to their proprietary ecosystem. If they suspend your processing privileges, you are instantly locked out. The customer payment profiles do not leave with you.
So you essentially lose your entire recurring revenue base overnight.
Overnight.
And just to keep the storefront functioning and process new orders, you have to scramble to integrate a third-party gateway, like Authorize.net.
Which brings us right back to the corkage fee.
Oh.
The exact moment you are forced off Shopify payments and onto that external gateway, Shopify instantly begins assessing that 0.5 to 2% penalty fee on every single transaction.
So your profit margins are slashed to that warning, and your checkout friction spikes because you can no longer offer Shop Pay.
Right. You are literally penalized for being evicted.
That is wild. It really emphasizes the sheer amount of operational leverage a merchant hands over in exchange for a streamlined interface.
It's a trade-off.
Okay, but assuming a business is selling standard, low-risk goods apparel, home goods, basic consumer products, what is the golden setup? Like the optimal architecture?
Right, if you play by the rules.
Exactly. The 2026 documentation points to a very specific hybrid approach, utilizing Shopify payments as the primary engine, but integrating PayPal as a secondary option.
And the strategic advantage of that setup relies entirely on a structural loophole.
A loophole?
Yeah, PayPal operates under a very specialized arrangement within the Shopify ecosystem. It is explicitly exempt from the third-party surcharge penalty.
Really?
Yes. Shopify treats it as a supplementary payment method rather than a competing external gateway.
Okay, so by deploying both simultaneously, a store captures that massive 50% conversion acceleration of Shop Pay for the majority of users,
Right.
while providing a highly trusted legacy alternative for buyers who specifically prefer PayPal's buyer protection policies.
Exactly.
And the merchant avoids paying a single cent in penalty fees to Shopify for offering that choice.
And the data indicates that layering PayPal into the checkout flow can push overall conversion rates up by an additional 5 to 15%.
Wow.
Especially for stores with high average order values where buyers are inherently just more cautious.
It is the definition of an optimized checkout flow. You're maximizing consumer flexibility while entirely bypassing the platform's external tax.
Well, there's a but.
There's always a but. This optimized hybrid setup is heavily gated by geography.
Right.
Shopify Payments is not universally available. As of the recent expansions noted in the 2026 data, the gateway is only supported in roughly 35-plus countries.
35?
Yeah. They recently brought 15 new European nations online in March, but massive swaths of the global market remain entirely unsupported.
Which serves as a pretty stark reminder that software platforms, no matter how ubiquitous their code bases might be, are entirely constrained by localized banking regulations. Right, and international compliance laws. Operating a payment facilitator requires navigating a total labyrinth of regional anti-money laundering and know your customer directives.
So if you live and operate a business in an unsupported region, you are entirely boxed out.
Completely.
You cannot use Shopify payments, which means you are mandatorily forced onto a third-party gateway, guaranteeing that you will pay that extra penalty fee to Shopify on every sale simply because of your geographic location.
Unavoidable.
And if you are in a supported country, setting up a store today, getting verified takes like 5 simple steps, but the banking rails demand strict alignment.
Very strict.
The onboarding requires verifiable legal business entities, an EIN or SSN, and a checking account that physically matches the country where the store is legally registered.
Yeah, you cannot run a U.S.-based e-commerce entity and route the daily payouts to an offshore savings account. The financial routing must be totally transparent.
So to wrap all this up, Shopify Payments executes an incredibly complex infrastructure play. It completely abstracts away the massive operational friction of securing traditional merchant accounts, managing daily security compliance, and reconciling all those fragmented dashboards.
It does. But that abstraction requires total submission to their localized rules, their product category restrictions, and their aggregated risk thresholds.
Right. It is a beautifully engineered, highly converting, Stripe-powered engine that saves you from brutal third-party fees, provided you aren't selling high-risk goods, you don't trigger a 120-day payout freeze, and you happen to live in one of the 35-plus supported countries.
Exactly. We've mapped out the mechanics of the fees and the risk models, but there is an underlying architectural reality here that warrants serious consideration.
What's that?
Well, we established that if you get suspended from Shopify payments, your payment history and saved customer cards do not leave with you.
Right, the data lock-in.
Yeah. And this raises an important question for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends. When you build your entire financial foundation on a platform that acts as both your landlord and your bank, who truly owns the relationship with your customer?
Wow.
Are you building a resilient business, or are you just renting space in an ecosystem where the rules can change overnight?
Yeah. If you are bringing your own wine to the restaurant, you really have to know who owns the bottle once the cork is popped. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the fine print behind your favorite digital tools, and we will catch you next time.